Hello there and welcome. I'm Ole Brøgger, and if you're new here, I really hope I'll earn your subscription today. A while ago, I tested this starter set from Army Painter's Gamemaster series. There was 5 miniatures in the package and some paints. This is just the Fanatic paints under another name. And this Christmas, I got this. I was so lucky to get this, and I think I want to try it out and share it with you. There's 15 colors in this box. Yeah, you could call it an upgrade for this set. There's also a miniature. It looks like a hack. I actually need one of those for my adventure, so let's open it up and see what's inside. Well, let's just start with the wrapping. It is pretty easy to take off, and then we don't have so many reflections from my lights. There's 2 trays in this package with paints, but I can feel that some of them have fallen out of their tray. Yeah, they are pretty messed up, but it is fixable. On top of the other tray, there is a painting guide from the Army Painter. And this is pretty good reading stuff, even if you are an experienced painter or if you are just a beginner. And then there is a specific painting guide for the included miniature. I think I will try to stay as close to this painting guide as possible when I'm starting to paint it, and I will only use the included paints. This is going to be a challenge because there's no black or white, or even an orange, because I can see I will have to paint fire. But I think we can come up with a solution for that. Let's see what else is inside this package. Oh, there's a mini story. I think I will read that later. And then we have this translation table for all the paints. As I said in the intro, this is just Fanatic paints in another disguise. So if you want to find the equivalent of the Fanatic paint range, you will have to look it up in this table. And I think it's... Sorry, Army Painter, I think this is stupid. Just call it what they are called in the Fanatic set. It will make it easier for everyone. I can see this is Dryad Green, and it is maybe more suitable for this specific miniature that I'm going to paint in this set. But nah, it is unnecessary. And finally, we have a little flyer with all the paint sets and the full range of all the Fanatic paints, with their birth name. And in the second tray, we have some of the effect paints and the washes. And look at this, this is a swamp tone, it's a wash, and is exactly the same as the military shade. Army Painter, why? Why? But the rust tone, well, it kept its name. Way! We also have some brush on primer, and finally we have the miniature. And I'm going to assemble that in a minute. There is also a dry brush, and I think this is pretty nice. It's a bit more stiff than the usual brushes, and I kind of like that. So I think I will save this for another purpose and just use one of my older dry brushes at the same size. And this is a pretty straightforward assembly. I just need to cut everything out from the sprue and do the assembly. The cuts were a bit rough, but it's not a problem. I will just use my sanding sticks, which is a soft stick with some sandpaper on it. And this is very easy to work with compared with a file. They are pretty cheap and you can get them in all kinds of grain types. Everything is cleaned up and now I can just snap it together. You don't need to use glue on this. It is just a tight press fit and the miniature is stuck on its base. However, the cauldron, I don't think it is tight enough when it's assembled, so I will use a tiny drop of super glue here and there just to make sure it will stay together. And use my sanding stick to file down the seams. You can barely see them after I'm done, especially when we have hit it with the brush-on primer. But before we start the priming, I will attach the models to these two dowels. The dowels are actually just made from an old curtain hanger, and I attached some double adhesive pads, and that's pretty much it. Very easy and homemade. And then I can start using the brush-on primer. Usually I use my airbrush to prime my miniatures, but this is pretty easy if you have a small area that needs priming or just a single miniature that you need to get done in a hurry and you don't want to clean your airbrush. The brush-on primer actually dries up pretty fast, but I will let it set for 20 minutes, half an hour before I will continue. And the first color of the day is the meteorite metal, or should I call it the rough iron. During this video, I will leave the Gamemaster color next to the original color of the Fanatic war paints. I have used this rough iron color a lot during all my painting, and I really like this metallic paint. And especially if you put a rust wash over it, like we are going to do in the end of this video. The magic effect will need some leafy green steam, or should we call it a dryad green. This is for the soup in the cauldron and the magical effect. Hobgoblin yellow, ice yellow. You just choose your weapon. This is for the skull in the soup and the flames. Now, let's try out this bear brown. I'll bet it's the same as oak brown from the Fanatic war paints. I'll use it for all the wood under the cauldron. Hey, a color that kept its name, the topaz skin. Let's paint some skin on this hag. Medieval forest or a poisoned leaf. I actually don't know what describes this color best, so why don't leave it with just one name? Okay, this is for her clothing. I found out there's an animal-like shape below her dress, and it looks maybe a cat or dog. It is zombie-like because I can see open ribcage on it, so I just paint the fur brown from my wet palette, which is already cracked open. Let's go to the darker green, the polymorph green or the scrap green. It's the same color. This is for the darker parts of her clothing. There is some skulls, bones and chicken feet hanging from her belt, and I think I will go back to the yellows and give it some of that. And the same color is usable for her eyes. And we have a name match again, carnelian skin. This is a reddish brown color, and I will use that for her back and belts. There's actually many little details around her neck, and I've tried to mix up a bit of the carnelian skin and the grey base primer just to make a bit brighter reddish brown, and it actually turned out like a very faint lavender color, and I think it looks pretty cool on that necklace. There's also a cut-off hand hanging from her belt, and I didn't want a fresh topaz skin color on that. So I mixed in some of the grey base primer to that too, and I think it turned out pretty well. I also used some of the bright green color on the bottle, so it will match the smoke from the cauldron. Vyran blood or alien purple? Well, you decide the color. I will use it on some of the minor details in her necklace and next to the knife. Okay, this is the name change I understand the least. Fire dragon or dragon red? Just why? Well, I'm going to use it as a blood effect on that cut-off hand in her belt. Acer gem or ultramarine blue? We are not in a Warhammer world right now, but when people say ultramarine blue, you know exactly what color it is. Oozing vomit is actually one of my favorite effect paints from the army painter, and now they call it cauldron ooze. Let's put it in the cauldron then. It has a pretty good effect, and it's very disgusting. I kinda like it. Now to the rust tone. I will use it all over the cauldron, and this will give it a very good effect of rust and corroded iron. And for the final wash, we will use the swamp tone, which is the same as the military shade. I will just soak the whole miniature into this green color and the goose soup in the cauldron. After the green wash has dried up, I actually think this starts to look pretty good. However, we need to do something about the base, and I think I'll just use the rust tone directly on top of the gray primer. After the green wash, everything was dulled down a bit, so I will use the same color as the base color to highlight some of the parts of this miniature. And this rotten little animal also need a couple of eyes. I also made a mix of the red color and the gray primer to make a brighter red between the ribs. Off camera, I was doing some experiments trying to make an orange of the colors on this set because we are going to paint some flames eventually. And I thought maybe this yellow color and the red would make up for an orange, but it turned out it was pink. Well, the pink color, it will highlight the blood effect between the ribs on this tiny animal, and this works okay. But I don't know what I'm going to do about these flames. Okay, I gave up. I'm gonna use this lava orange. I know I said I would only use the colors in this set, but since it's some kind of an upgrade from the starter set where you have access to an orange color, yeah, I think this is okay. And finally, I will use the brown color to paint the rims on the bases. And finally, this hack is ready to take place in a part of my adventure. And the hack is done. I have to say I really love the colors in this set. I was, however, missing that little orange color. Also, as I said in the beginning of this video, this was some kind of an upgrade if you already have the starter set. Then you have a great supplement of some other cool colors. You might have noticed during this video that I'm not a huge fan of the naming of these paints. And I'm still not, because this is some fantastic paints and they are from the Fanatic series. I have the complete set and I really love these paints. The naming of them is so irrelevant that they are called something else. They are just called something that should match the miniature that's in this set, but I don't think it makes sense at all. This is it for now. If you already haven't done it, please hit that like button or the subscribe if you think I've earned it. Leave a comment below what you think about this little set. And here by the end, let's have a look on how this little hack turned out. I'll see you soon.